Hi, this is Dee Dee Raap, and this is Memorial Day weekend. And I decided that this would be a great time to do a short Facebook Live presentation on Memorial Day healing. That's just because of my own experience in life, and that's all I try to share with people is what I've been through. So this is live, and what we're going to do is just cover a couple of reasons why you might benefit from just thinking about that journey of remembering, celebrating, and healing. I had the great pleasure of driving across the state of South Dakota this week, speaking up in Aberdeen, South Dakota, then down in the south central part of the state near Winter, or actually in Winter. And if you haven't been out driving across the prairie this year, it is just beautiful. And the farm girl in me just loves seeing all the baby calves out there. It's just beautiful right now. When I stopped by my in-laws on the way to my first speaking gig, they had on their counter a red American Legion poppy. You know, the paper red flowers that the American Legion sells? I hadn't seen one of those for many years, and I tried to get it all the way home to show you, and I lost it somewhere on my trip, so I apologize for that. But just imagine seeing that red poppy paper flower that we all saw, and it just brought me back to memories of something I call going to Fron. When I was a little girl, I would go to Fron Lutheran Church with my grandmother. That was her church when she was a young mom on the prairie, and I would go with her, and after the service on Memorial Day, which was back then, and this is how old I am, it was called Decoration Day. And Decoration Day was when we went to the cemeteries to decorate, to make them look good, to honor those who were laying at rest. So I went there with my grandmother, Olga, from Oslo, several times as a little girl. I remember the flowers. I remember going to the cemetery after the service and looking at my grandfather's grave. And he had this fern peony in his grave, which was kind of the same color red as this poppy that I have in my imaginary hand right now. I just wish I had it to show you, but it's just that beautiful deep red. And as a little girl, I would smell the fern peony and I would think of heaven, because Grandma Olga said Grandpa was in heaven. So I would smell the flower and think of heaven. That to me is what I call going to Fron. And if you're one of my readers, I just published a few minutes ago my Dear Mom e-letter of going to Fron, and I also tried to get it on Facebook. So if maybe you can click on a link there on my page and see it. But going to Fron for me is all about what we do this weekend. We go to cemeteries. Either physically we go to clean and trim and do everything we do to make them look good, or we kind of go there emotionally. But we go back to the past to think about people that we've loved and lost. And it's such a time to remember and celebrate and heal. And that, of course, is the journey that I took, that I've shared with people since losing my mom and then my dad. So when you go to Fron, or whatever your place is called, maybe you'll do what I did last time I went. I went, and I know that there are people who are planned out and they're organized and they always think about what they're doing. I just don't work that way very often, I guess. Because when I went to Fron the last time in early May, all I had with me was my toothbrush. And that's all I had to use on the tombstone. But I scrubbed and I cleared out the lettering with twigs, and I worked with a toothbrush on the lichen. And as I did that, I had so many memories coming back about my mom and my dad. And it was just amazing. And as the tears flowed, and the tears will still flow, and that used to embarrass me, and now I'm just too old to be embarrassed anymore, but that's part of the journey. When you remember the little things about those people that lie at rest there, it will bring a smile to your face, I promise. I remember when I'm there, I was thinking about my dad, and he was so Norwegian, of course. His mother was Olga, the one from Oslo that I went to the church services with. Well, my dad and I, especially after Mom died and we no longer had Mom's home-baked cookies, we would have a cup of coffee with a cookie, and I don't know what you actually call it. It's like a chocolate-covered graham cracker cookie. Not very complicated, but it was my dad's favorite. And we would take that and we would share a cup of coffee, each have a cup of coffee, and we would just dunk that chocolate-covered graham cracker cookie in that cup of coffee. And that was, just so good. I miss that with my dad. And I miss so many things about my mom. And I've written about that in Dear Mom. But if you're one of my readers, you've seen me talk about things I've missed between her rhubarb tort and things she did and made. But this going to Fron, going to that cemetery, whether you go there in person or just in your imagination, you go there, you will remember so many things this weekend. Let yourself do that. Those will be wonderful memories. Maybe you've got some really big things that happen. For me, it's mostly the little things. It's that cup of coffee. It's hearing that Norwegian accent. It's remembering how Mom sewed. It's hearing the wind at Fron and thinking how many times I drove around that prairie as a kid. It just takes you back. And so you may cry. There may be some memories involved with that. These are your moms and dads. And then when I stand at Fron and look around, it's like a whole village that helped raise me. It's Hendricksons and it's Lawrenceburgs and it's Moorhagens and it's Haugies and it's all kinds of people there who were a big part of my life as a kid. I think they said a lot of prayers for me as a teenager, in fact. They were there for me. So I remember them and I celebrate. And how I celebrate is I give thanks. I give thanks for the amazing things I took for granted, like that cup of coffee with my dad. Like I remember being with my parents in Roslyn when we moved to town after our house was destroyed by fire in 1971. I remember my mom and dad sitting on the back step and how they loved to listen to birds and how I thought they were just goofy. Oh, birds, really, really. What's the big deal about birds? This week, driving across South Dakota, I darn near stopped the car when I heard a meadowlark. I haven't heard a meadowlark for a long time. My mom and dad taught me the joy of birds. I didn't really get that gift at the time, but later on I get it. So now I just give thanks and say, thank you for teaching me the simple joys of life. Include the cup of coffee with the graham cracker cookie and listening to the birds and being out in the prairie and seeing all the baby calves. Oh my gosh, my dad was the farmer who loved baby calves. And he taught me it just doesn't get much better than that. So I celebrate that this weekend. I celebrate that many times during the year. But Memorial Day weekend is a wonderful, wonderful time to think about those things that we most miss about people that we loved and that lay at rest. And then you take another step in healing because you just have maybe regained your perspective. Maybe you've regained an appreciation for something that was so simple, that was so important. And then you heal a little bit more. When I was in Winter speaking, a woman came into the workshop area about a half an hour before I spoke, and I hadn't seen her for a few years. She found my book, Dear Mom, in Sioux Falls, here where I live, after her mom died. And we became friends over sharing the journey of losing a mom, losing somebody that you loved. And I hadn't seen Amy for a number of years, too many years, I guess, and we connected very quickly. And I told her about going to Fron a few weeks ago and how all I had was the toothbrush and how I used the toothbrush on the lettering and I used a little stick to get inside the lettering and, kind of clean it up. And here's truth be told, I had a little bottle of Listerine. So I used a little bottle of Listerine on the lichen on the top of the tombstone where it had grown, and that helped. Kind of wore out the toothbrush, and someday when I get there, I know I will have a real brush and a real bucket, and I'll do it the right way. But that's what I did that day. So I was telling Amy that, and then I told her how I cried. And it's been, 26 years since Mom died. And she looked at me and she said, me too. It doesn't matter how long ago it was. It doesn't. If it's really fresh, it might be really, really harder, but it's still hard because it was so good. These people that we have loved and lost and we celebrate this weekend, that love was something deep, something, for me, something very simple, very real, very authentic, not very complicated, and I miss it. But when I go to Fron, in my head, or when I get there once, maybe twice a year, when I get there, I have that experience of just remembering, and I celebrate, and I say, hey. And by the way, this being my second live Facebook presentation, I still count on my mom up there to help me make sure that everything works right. which is just funny as can be, because if you knew my mom, she would not even know what buttons to push on a microwave. She was just not technical at all. It's kind of where I got it from, I think. So, Memorial Day weekend. That poppy flower at my in-laws this week, just made me think about Memorial Day. So I looked it up, and that poppy became the American Legion's symbol in 1925. It happened after World War I. There was a field in France where many of our soldiers lay dead, in a field where poppies were blossoming. See, out of so much bad does come some good. Out of your pain comes the healing that gives you this memory of all these amazing gifts that you got from people that you loved and lost. You still have them. They are still there. I know it. I'm going to have that cup of coffee. Oh, and with my daughter, when my daughter comes, we're going to have that cup of coffee, and we will have that chocolate-covered graham cracker cookie, and we will dunk it, and we will toast my dad. And we'll make Mom's, Grandma Betty's hot dish, and we'll do things like that just celebrate love. So simple, so real. So this weekend, whether you go to a cemetery or whether you just go there in your mind, remember the best gifts of your loved one's life. And let that just bring this smile to your face as you say thanks. And then let another layer of healing come in, because it will. I published Going to Fron for my Dear Mom readers today. If you want to get my free easing, go to my webpage and sign up. Otherwise, it should be posted to my Facebook page very soon along with this video. So if you like this, if this helps you, share it with somebody who needs a little help on this journey of remembering, celebrating, and healing. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. We have some sunshine here in Sioux Falls. Hopefully you have sunshine where you are, and you have a weekend where you can remember, celebrate, and heal. Happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Take care.